Welcome to the Love People Use Things podcast. I'm Matt Fradd. I've got some pretty crazy news to share with you today. Believe it or not, Cosmopolitan magazine, that's right, that trash heap of a magazine that has celebrated sexual exploitation under the ruse of empowering women for bloody decades now, just published an article that seriously discusses the public health harms of pornography. Yep, you heard me right. They just published an article. When I say just, this came out on the 22nd of January, discussing the public health issue of porn in a serious way. What is happening? Somebody tell me, would you? What is happening? I think this is what's happening. You see, as science piles higher and higher, and all of it's pointing in one direction, it becomes increasingly asinine to say that the thing is healthy when all the science says it's unhealthy. Right? This is true of cigarettes. I mean, throughout the 80s and 90s even, there were medical doctors saying that there's really no connection between smoking nicotine and cancer, that it wasn't addictive. You know, this is just, it sounds insane to us to say that now, but there was a time where it sounded like, well, there was just a lot of confusion. There's some studies that say cigarettes are bad for you, but, you know, some, I think, says it's fine for you. So who knows? All right. Maybe you could have held that belief back in the 80s. No sensible person can hold that belief today. We know better as a society. Well, we now know better when it comes to pornography, all right? So there was a time analogous to cigarettes where there were people saying, yeah, I've heard that pornography can be bad, but you know what? There's also reason to think that it's really healthy. And besides, aren't all those people who are saying it's bad, aren't they just like religious nut jobs who hate sex and hate pleasure anyway? Like, you don't want to be like that. Just chill out. Like, you know, porn's probably okay. And here's the thing, when you have a vested interest in something, you tend not to want to listen to the other side. So if you're somebody who enjoys masturbating to hours of pornography, when you hear somebody like me or somebody else tell you that porn isn't good for you and it's turning you into an awful human being and ruining your chance at a satisfying romantic life, you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to quit your porn? No, because porn's trained you to be lazy anyway, and it's a lot easier just to kind of blame everybody else except yourself, right? You just look around and be like, nah, man, this is your fault. I'm sex positive, okay, which is a joke. As my friend Alexander Rhodes said, there's nothing so sex positive as quitting porn. So anyway, Cosmopolitan, Emily Rothman published this article on the 22nd of January with Cosmo. I still can't believe it. It's actually written quite well. She's a university professor, so I'm surprised. I imagine half the readership of Cosmo couldn't figure out the big words. But anyway, kudos to them for actually addressing this issue. I think this is fantastic. Let me read to you just a little bit from the article. She points out that in 2016, Utah Governor Gary R. Herbert signed a resolution declaring pornography a public health crisis. She says that this resolution sparked debate at the time, but for most public health experts, the idea that pornography has some relevance to our health as a society isn't too controversial. No, it's not controversial at all. I mean, if the majority of people consume pornography, and pornography is the primary way that people learn about sex, then the primary way that the majority of people learn about sex is through pornography. And if pornography, among other things, teaches us how to, say, abuse women verbally and physically, if it propagates racial stereotypes and so forth, then the act by which the next generation will come has been perverted in our minds. All right? The central act that unites a man and a woman, husband and a wife, has now been perverted. You know, it's been said that the fundamental building block of society is the family. Right? If you want to destroy society, then you attack the family. Okay, but what's the fundamental building block of the family? Well, you might say marriage. Yeah, but what makes marriage different to other relationships? Well, it's not sleeping in the same bed with the person, because, I mean, you might do that with a brother or a sister when you were younger, or maybe if you're camping, you might do that with a friend. It's not washing their dishes. You could do that for the next door neighbor. So what is it? Well, it's obviously sex. So if you want to destroy society, destroy sex, and that'll destroy marriage, that'll destroy family, and that'll destroy society. So absolutely it has relevance to our health as a society. This isn't controversial. Good for her for making that point clear. She says that she began studying this issue of pornography because she was concerned about the amount of violence that she was seeing in relationships, and that a good deal of these people who were either the recipients of this violence or the perpetrators of this violence were either in relationships with people who consume pornography or people who consume pornography. Right? And so one of the studies that she did, she found that these people who watch pornography watched a wide variety of pornography. For example, she says straight porn, okay, but also three-ways, bondage, racially specific, humiliation porn, incest porn, and what they call rape porn. Yeah, it's not just what they called rape porn. A lot of the rape porn out there is rape porn because it's rape porn. There have been cases of this where people will actually film their own themselves raping another human person, and they'll upload it to pornographic sites. CNN did an article on this about a 54-year-old Japanese man conducting a sleep study. And, he was looking for women between certain ages. He drugged them in hotels. They agreed to this. Then he raped them. He filmed the rape, and he uploaded this stuff. So a lot of what we call rape porn isn't just called it because the woman's acting. A lot of it is actually like a crime scene that you're watching. You know what I mean? Or a sex slave that you're masturbating to. So yeah, that is why they call it rape porn. Okay. So good for Cosmo for beginning to address this issue. I hope that this will either cause them to totally reorientate their magazine or to just destroy it and start again. Because for years now, Cosmo, as I said in the beginning, has been claiming to empower women when all they've done is enslave them. Right, yeah, enslave them. Is addiction not a form of enslavement? Then they've been glorifying porn for years now. Is dating or marrying a man who's completely addicted to pornography a sort of enslavement? Yeah, it is. So when I talk about endorsing this junk, I'm using heavy language, but there's a sense in which it's true. And so I hope that they'll wake up, smell the science, and change their opinion on this. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a huge knee-jerk response from the porn industry, people in the porn industry, people who write for Cosmo, who are in the sex industry, because this is the genius that you get to read when your children read Cosmo, or if you're a loser, if you read Cosmo, you get to read, from what sex workers have to say about sex. So I suppose that there is a big, there's going to be a bit of a reaction here, and it wouldn't be a big surprise if over the next coming months we see articles that totally endorse porn to try and balance this one out. Maybe this just got through the cracks. I don't know. I'm hoping not. But hey, it's out there now. Let's just close with her final paragraph. She realizes, she points out that, look, it's not just a matter of how is it affecting adolescents. She says we have to figure out how is it affecting adults. She says questions also remain about how adults are affected by sexually explicit media. Some research suggests it may cause both men and women to become dissatisfied with their own bodies and with their sexual relationships. Yes, absolutely. I wrote a whole book on pornography, and there's a chapter in there all on this that points to this issue. I lay out a ton of research. She says the ideas that the availability of internet pornography is having a significant impact on individuals' interest in having sex in person, or that most people who watch pornography will inevitably seek out more and more shocking material, remains a question, though. No, it doesn't. It actually really, really doesn't. And we know that because there's been over 30 neuroscience-based studies on porn users, and one of the primary indicators of addiction is a dulled reward center. And that almost always leads people to looking up more explicit, shocking material to get through that numbed reward center to get a higher spike. But okay, you can't blame her for getting some points wrong here. I'm glad she at least sees it as a question. She says, engaging researchers trained in psychology, sociology, sexology, medicine, neuroscience, economics, and public health in rigorous pornography scholarship will help generate evidence to guide future public policy decisions. That's what we want. We want evidence. Give us evidence and let us have the courage to follow the evidence where it leads. I'm definitely not in the mood to promote Cosmo or to thank Cosmo. I never would do that, but this might be, if you do happen to stumble across this article, you might want to write to them and thank them for finally speaking some truth on this issue. All right, if you would like to become a supporter of the Love People Use Things campaign, if you want to join it, all you got to do is pay $10 a month and you get to support the work that I'm doing. So here's how you would do it. Go to lovepeopleusethings.fm, click support, and it'll take you over to the Patreon page. I want to tell you, this is what I'm going to give you just for supporting the show for $10 a month. You're going to get a signed copy of my book that I referenced a couple of times in this episode, The Porn Myth, Exposing the Reality Behind the Fantasy of Pornography. You'll also get a fantastic book called Smart Parenting in a Sexualized World by Amanda Zerfus. You'll get a month of the greatest accountability and filtering software for free. Covenant Eyes. Seriously, if you don't have Covenant Eyes on your computer, on your phone, for your kids, you need to stop listening to this podcast and go get it immediately. Okay, seriously, it's the best out there. If there was a better one, I would tell you to get it. Okay, you'll also get an awesome Love People Use Things sticker. I'll send that to you in the mail. You get 25% off a Love People Use Things tee, and you'll have free access to our live stream events when we begin them for men, for women. We're going to have ones for both men and women, and for parents. These will be educational seminars that'll really help you. So if you want the full Love People Use Things experience, you're not really having it unless you join the Love People Use Things campaign. Again, go to lovepeopleusethings.fm to figure out how to do that, and a big thanks for your support. Every week on the Love People Use Things podcast, I always like to talk about a new, awesome, maybe not new, but a great movement that's out there doing amazing work, helping people to love people and use things. And this week I want to talk about Strength to Fight. They say fighting for a porn-free Canada. Strength to Fight is a group of Canadians passionate about fighting for a porn-free Canada. Through our presentations, website, and resources, we're working to equip Canadians to live porn-free lives and build porn-free communities. Go check out their website, strength2fight.ca for Canada, strength2fight.ca. You should totally, I know these guys personally. I've had coffee with them. They're really good people. If you want a great presentation, and maybe a non-religious presentation in your school to address this issue, you live up in Canada, go check them out. Strength to Fight. You can learn about their upcoming events. You can get their resources. They've got a blog. Yeah, go check them out. Good people. Strength2fight.ca. All right, thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode. Look forward to chatting with you next week on the Love People Use Things podcast.